What is up, tribe? Happy Monday. It's your girl, Natalie, the Keto Bikini Pro. Can't see the bicep in my little half sweatshirt. Welcome to another Monday Masterclass. Tonight I'm rocking my Angel Competition Bikinis Arnold fashion show little warm-up half hoodie. I think it says Angel Fashion Show down the arm. I'm in love with this little thing. It's so awesome. So I'm exactly 5 weeks out as of Saturday for the Arnold Angel Fashion Show. I'm waiting for my bikini to arrive. I cannot wait. And I made a little announcement today that I did not plan to make on my Instagram. In case y'all haven't seen that, posted another one of my photos from my shoot with Flawless Fitness Model Magazine in Mexico. The delts were popping. And I decided to make a little announcement. I was inspired. I've been a little afraid to say it out loud. I think one of those goals that kind of scares you a little bit and you're kind of afraid to put it in the universe because then it makes it more real. And I hadn't really made a decision until I was writing this post today. I was like, let's just make it real. Let's do this thing. I decided that I will plan to compete in Dallas for the FMG Texas Dallas show in April 19th, which I believe is 12 weeks out. Let's see, as of this past Saturday. Yep, 12 weeks out. So 7 weeks after the fashion show on the Arnold stage, I will be planning to get on stage and compete again. My big goal this year is to be leaner and more conditioned than I have ever been before. I am finally in a position of health and strength and vitality and mental health where I really believe I can actually push my body to that level that I've never done before. So putting it in the universe, now it's real. Now y'all know. Now I'm not the only one that knows. I have not registered for the show yet. I usually wait until 4 to 6 weeks out from a show to confirm that things are moving along, because one thing I will say with anything in your journey, and this is a lot of it actually relates to tonight's topic, which is all about listening to your body and understanding your biofeedback. But you'll hear me say all the time, you are the CEO of your body. You need to know your body better than anyone. You know your body better than your coach, better than any protocol, any influencer, any guru, any doctor. So I usually wait until right before they close registration, however far out that might be, usually 4 weeks or so, to make sure that things are coming along the way they should, to make sure that it is still a good idea for me to compete, because I will always, in this sport, put my health first. And what I won't do is I will never get on stage if I think that it is not a good idea for me at that point in time. So I don't register like 12, 16 weeks out from a show. I wait until I'm closer. So I won't register just yet, but it had been something I was thinking about doing, and I was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I wasn't sure. I was going to wait until the Arnold to make the decision to see how I was feeling and looking for that show, or for that stage appearance, and then decide from there. But the truth is, I've kept my physique very close to my last stage weight, my stage conditioning. I have not put on excessive body fat. So my goal is to actually beat my Mexico conditioning for the Arnold stage. My goal is to get a little bit leaner than I was in Mexico. And then that will put me in a very good position to be able to do a very sustainable, healthy, not drastic, not crazy 7-week prep for Dallas. So there we go. Didn't didn't expect to even make that announcement tonight, but the more people I tell, the more accountable I will be to the goal, and I won't chicken out. So you guys are my accountability partners. Cheers. Tina, I cannot wait to see you in Ohio. Tina will also be doing the fashion show. I'm so excited. Can't wait to see you in your bikini, and Mary Grace in her bikini, and it's just going to be a blast. So for those of you, some of y'all might be in the area, the Ohio area, the Columbus, Ohio area. It'll be March 1st is the actual fashion show on the Arnold Sports Expo Sports Festival weekend. So if anybody wants to come out and you're not yet in the Facebook group, Keto Bikini Secrets, join the Facebook group. Let me know that you're in the area and that you're planning to come out for the show, and we will all be getting together. We'll go to dinner. We'll try to get some other activities planned for that weekend. Coach Mary Grace and I will be there from Thursday, the prior Thursday, so Thursday, February 27th through Monday, March 3rd. So that's a nice long weekend. So we should be able to get together once or twice and put together a little KBB meetup or two. Go hang out at the Arnold Expo, maybe go watch the finals together, the bikini finals, the wellness finals, and go see what the big stage looks like. I haven't been to the Arnold since 2018, so I'm really excited. It was pre-COVID back then. It was crazy back then. I don't know what it's like these days, but I'm really excited to be in the building. I'm sure we'll get some fun swag and all kinds of freebies and cool, fun things. So that's the official first KBB event of the year. All right. Let's dive into tonight's topic. Tonight we are talking about how the heck do you actually listen to your body and know what the heck your body is even trying to tell you when you hear that said, listen to your body. I want to talk about something I talk about a lot inside the Academy, which is biofeedback. What is biofeedback? What do I mean by that? How can you track your biofeedback? How can you get to know your body? And ultimately what that leads to is understanding your body's signals, what she is trying to communicate to you. Okay, we're going to talk about her as if she is your life partner, your sister, your best friend, because she is. Your body's the only thing that has been with you every single second of your life and will be with you until the very last second of your life. So we need to treat her like she is the most important thing to us, because she should be. So ultimately, let's see. Yeah, ultimately, this is how you become the CEO of your body and your journey. Like I'm always saying, this is how you own your process, your plan, your program, your whatever it might be, your diet, your training, all of it. At the end of the day, you might have a coach programming your workouts, telling you what to eat in terms of macros. Your coach doesn't live with you. Your coach is not always in the gym with you every single session. If you got it like that and you have a trainer who can be with you for every single session, that's amazing. I don't even have that. But even then, I think recently I was talking about this maybe on our coffee chat this week about how your relationship with your coach needs to be a two-way street. It's not just you checking in to get your report card filled out from your teacher, your administrator. That's not what a coach is for. So even with a coach who's giving you protocols, you're the one that's executing those protocols on a day-to-day basis. You're the one that needs to work it within your life. And if something needs to be adjusted on the fly, you may not have that coach in your ear right there in that moment telling you exactly what to do and how to handle that situation. You're the one that needs to be able to do that. So to be able to do that, you need to be able to understand what the heck is going on with your body at any given time. So I don't like anyone feeling like a slave to a program, a protocol, a diet, rules that other people have created. I want you to own your body, learn to decipher what she needs at any given time. And the most important piece of this understanding your biofeedback is how to distinguish between your body and what your body is telling you and this emotional thoughts and feelings, the voice of sabotage, which is coming from this irrational, emotional survival brain. Your body does not want pizza. Your body does not want donuts. No, your body does not want to binge. Your body does not want to binge and purge. Your body does not want to abuse herself. So all of these things we hear about what our bodies want. My body wants carbs. I'm on keto, but my body wants sugar. No. Your brain wants that. Your mind wants that. What does your body actually want? What does your body actually need? We need to be able to separate these things. So I truly believe that this topic tonight, this is the foundation of it all. If you can learn to tune into your body and really understand what's going on internally with your body at any given time, you can own your journey. And you don't have to be beholden to other people and what everybody else is doing, or what the latest science says, or this, that, or the other. These questions y'all ask about, what do I think about that? What do I think about that? You will be able to decipher, well, what do I think for me, for my body right now? That's what I want for you more than anything. True autonomy and ownership. So let's dive in. If I know I have some ladies in the academy who have shared that they have a hard time with biofeedback, with assessing their biofeedback, with evaluating it. We do ratings every week. I'm going to get into that in a little bit about what that looks like, about how we use it with our coaching and what that looks like for clients and members to check in each week. We give biofeedback ratings and we ask them to rate certain elements of biofeedback. And some ladies really have a struggle with how to do that. So if this is you, if you've struggled with understanding your biofeedback, being able to assess it, drop a comment. Let me know what particularly trips you up with this. How do I assess it? I'm not sure. Where are you getting confused? And anything specific that you want me to help you through, drop it in the comments and we can workshop it through on this live stream. We've got a great little crew here tonight. I didn't do my shout outs yet. Debbie, Karen, Lisa, Diane, Mandy's on. Michelle is on. Woohoo. Tina, I already mentioned. Becky is on. Mary Grace. Andrea made it. Yay. Shout out to Andrea. Woo, woo, woo. Okay, let's dive in here. So really quick, I like to get into definitions. So I actually looked up what is the dictionary definition of biofeedback. I was curious what they might say. Amanda's on too. Woo woo. Anybody else watching? Check in, holler at me, let me know you're here. Okay, so what is this dictionary definition of biofeedback? If you look that up, it was kind of fascinating to me. It says, this is the Merriam-Webster dictionary. The definition of biofeedback, according to Merriam-Webster, the technique of making unconscious or involuntary bodily processes perceptible to the senses in order to manipulate them by conscious mental control. That is so interesting to me. That if we look at that definition, then biofeedback means the technique of making unconscious bodily processes perceptible to the senses in order to manipulate them by conscious mental control. Now, what they get into is that they're talking about things like heartbeats and brain waves, these things that we don't usually think about, we're not normally tuned into, but making the unconscious conscious. And then they're talking about using these tools like an oscilloscope in order to manipulate, by conscious mental control, things like your heartbeat or your brain waves. If we wanted to apply that to our health and fitness journey, it makes so much sense. The number one thing I ask clients to do while we're working together one-on-one, anybody that watches me and follows me or anybody in the academy, is that I want you to make what's unconscious conscious. What am I always telling you? Check the thoughts, capture the thoughts, try to identify, become aware of the thoughts, because we talk about it a lot as it relates to mindset, right? Because our hands and our feet can't move themselves. We have to use our brains to move our hands and feet. So ultimately what it comes down to when we're trying to make changes with our diet, with our fitness, with our lifestyle, it is habit change. So what is the most important thing we have to do to start the process of habit change? We have to become aware of our habits. We have to make the unconscious conscious. So it's really cool, I think, that is what the actual dictionary definition of biofeedback is. Now, when I Googled it, just what is biofeedback? There is an actual technique, apparently, that is, I guess, something that's done in psychology, different practitioners, but this is interesting. Google AI broke it down to this. Biofeedback is a mind-body technique that helps people learn to control certain bodily functions. So similar to Merriam-Webster's definition. It uses monitoring devices to provide real-time information about how the body is functioning. It describes how it works. A healthcare provider attaches sensors to the body, such as fingers, wrists, or chest. The sensors measure involuntary bodily functions like heart rate, breathing, and muscle tension. The patient sees the measurements on a monitor, and then the patient learns to make conscious changes to improve their body's function. Simple, really understandable example here would be breathing to change your heart rate. Right? When you have these short, shallow breaths, or you've been running, or you've been doing something that's making you anxious, you have a very heightened heart rate. Your heart rate goes up, right? To get your heart rate to come down, if you are aware that your heart rate is up, you can take some slow, deep breaths, long exhales, and slow down your heart rate. That is a really good example. So, biofeedback, talking about using monitoring devices to provide real-time information about how the body is functioning. The way I use biofeedback with clients and members and how I encourage them to assess their body is you become the sensors. Instead of attaching sensors to you, you are the sensor that is learning to sense what is happening with your body at any given time. So let me define how I would define biofeedback, and then I'll get into some of the specifics about how I use it. Biofeedback is simple and easy, tuning in and observing your body's physiology. That's all it is. Observing your body at any given time in any given circumstance. And then the key piece here, distinguishing your physiology, your physiological signals from your body, from your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. How does my body feel in space right now? What are the physiological sensations I am experiencing? I talked about this in a masterclass called somatic experiencing or somatic training. It's the concept of tuning into the sensations in your body, the physiological sensations in your body. So what's really interesting here is that the questions I'm seeing in the chat box so far are about what I would call biometrics, not biofeedback. And I'm going to talk about the difference of both. So y'all, Andrea and Debbie, just perfect segue. Your questions are perfect segue for me to explain what are biometrics, what is biofeedback, and how are they different? Okay. Andrea says, how do I measure the accuracy of my fat percentage and muscle pounds? They go back and forth. I'm losing weight really slow and I'm okay with that. My in-body confuses me. And then Debbie says, how do I differentiate between body fat percentage going up on in-body scale due to working out previous day or due to what I ate the previous day? So what you ladies are asking about is your biometrics. Okay, so let's get into that a little bit. And for both of you, I have a masterclass on how to interpret biometrics. Scale metrics, I think is what I called it. It was all about how to interpret what your in-body or your DEXA or whatever you're reading is saying. So check out that masterclass. And then another masterclass that will be very powerful for you, which funny enough, I was just talking about the other day on our Zoom call in the Academy. I was talking about revamping this one because I did a class called End Your Scale Obsession. That is a really powerful one because I talked about all of the different things, all the variables that can impact your body weight, body fat percentage on your scales. So those two masterclasses will be really powerful for that. And when I'm done with this one, I will add to the description below. I'll put the links on both of those. So you can come back and grab those links after the live. That is the End Your Scale Obsession and the how to interpret body metrics on your scale. Now, because I was thinking about revamping that because we were just talking about insights that one of our members, Mandy, shout out to Mandy who's on tonight. She shared some really great insights in her weekly check-in that I then made an example of and talked all about on our weekly feedback video. And it relates to this understanding your biofeedback. And so I wanted to kind of connect the dots on some things there. So I will likely do a follow-up. Maybe next Monday I'll do a follow-up to this one that will specifically address more of the biofeedback as it relates to your biometrics. Ooh, yeah, let's do that. Okay, and then I can talk more about what I talked about on the Scale Obsession Masterclass, but I know that not everybody is obsessed with the scale, but would be interested in learning more about all of these variables that go into changing the metrics that you're going to see. So we will definitely check that out. Put that on the docket for next week. Mary Grace, keep me honest about that one. Part 2, biometrics and biofeedback. So real quick, biometrics are the numbers, the data that you can collect from your scale or your measurements. And the biometrics we track weekly with my clients is body weight, body fat percentage, measurements at minimum. A lot of your scales are going to give you skeletal muscle mass or lean body mass. It's all just a function of your body fat percentage. So these scales generally will track with, if you know your body weight and you know your body fat percentage and you multiply those two things together, you're going to get how many pounds of body fat you have in pounds. And if you subtract your body fat percentage from 100, you'll get your lean body mass percentage. And if you multiply that by your body weight, you'll get how many pounds you have in lean mass. Some scales like InBody will give you skeletal muscle mass, which is going to be lower than your lean body mass, all that kind of stuff. But I talked about all of that on the biometrics masterclass. But body weight, body fat percentage, skeletal muscle mass, all of your different body measurements, those are all what we would call biometrics. Metrics, data, numbers that you can track. Biofeedback, while some of this can have some metrics attached to it, it's more of the qualitative stuff than the quantitative stuff, right? So some of these we can quantify, but the more important thing is to get the qualitative data about your biofeedback. So when we're talking about biofeedback, there are 7 biofeedback markers that we track inside the academy and with our private clients. And we ask you to rate them. The way we do it inside our app is on a scale of 0 to 100%. So you give each of these biofeedback markers a rating based on your week. And we do this, we require it, we ask for it weekly, but members and clients can do this daily if they want. And that is actually what I would recommend to you to do if you want to start getting a handle on your body and your signals, is to track at least these 7 things daily. Now, really important caveat here. You don't have to track all of these things. You don't have to track any of these things. Ultimately, what it comes down to, and what I'm going to recommend in a minute, I'm going to get into how to create your own daily biofeedback journal to use daily to start to truly observe the things that matter to you. But the most important thing there is that it's about what matters to you, and it's something that you are trying to get a handle on. So you could pick one of these 7 things or none of these 7 things. You can pick one other thing that is maybe a symptom of a particular condition you're trying to track. And maybe that's the only thing you focus on that week. All right, let's get into what the 7 things are that we track, or we ask our clients to track. Sleep, 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 sleep. And here's a quick rundown. Sleep, hydration level, or water intake is how we do that in our app. Sleep, hydration, hunger, energy, mood, libido, and digestion. That's our 7, okay? So inside the academy, I have a little kind of guide on how to assess and assign a number based on the way we do it in the app. But that is not the important thing, y'all. Knowing how to pick the right number is not the important thing. So all my academy members who have had a hard time trying to pick a number to use for your weekly check-in when you're doing these ratings, it's not a big deal. Ultimately, don't worry about how I would numerically rate my biofeedback. Think about for you and pick your own way of doing your scale. It could be on a scale of 1 to 10. It could be a scale of 1 to 5. For those of you who are not doing it in the academy in our app for yourself, do it on a scale of 1 to 3. You could go, if my sleep was terrible, it's a 0. If my sleep was fantastic, it's a 3. You could put names or emojis the way we're doing it in our Grace and Grind challenge, putting a fire sign if you crushed it, and putting a sad face or a X or something if it was horrible. Any rating any scale that you want to assign to it that helps you understand your body, that's all that matters. Ultimately, I would say the best way to journal these things, any of these things, is not even giving it a numerical rating at all and just making notes in your day, committing to being more present and aware of what's happening with your body, and then writing it down. At the end of the night, each day, you could do a morning or an evening, just like we're doing inside the Grace and Grind Challenge. If you are new here or you're watching the replay later on and you don't know what the Grace and Grind Challenge is, we are currently running it in January 2025 inside the Keto Bikini Secrets Facebook group. And it is where we do a daily check-in on just a few things that we have committed to doing for the month of January. So, and something I'll be talking about as we get closer to the end of the challenge is continuing the challenge going through February and March and April in a different way each month. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I plan to continue Grace and Grind going for myself. And we will lead some mini challenges throughout the months in the Facebook group for free, entirely free. And will help you continue Grace and Grind, having grace within the grind in your own life by establishing 1, 2, or maybe 3 things you want to work on each month and then reporting out to stay accountable. So that's all we're talking about here. Biofeedback is simply tuning in and observing your body in one or more areas. So let's say sleep is a goal of yours. You have noticed that your sleep is interrupted. So many of our ladies talk about waking up at 3 a.m. and not being able to get back to sleep. Well, if you really want to get down to how that might be impacting you, start keeping a sleep journal. There's your one biofeedback marker you want to track, a sleep journal. Each morning, you can just jot down. This is what I'm talking. When I talk about biofeedback, I'm not talking about the biometrics that your watch or your Oura ring is telling you about your sleep or any of these other markers. I want you to observe your own body. So a sleep journal might look like, I got in bed at, and you could even, if all you wanted to do is a sleep journal, you could have these questions pre-written. You can just write them down, put them in a Google Doc or put them on a Word document. And if you're a pen and paper gal, write them all down on a Word document, print out 30 copies and use it every day. And have your little prompts ready so you don't have to write out the prompts every night. But let's say you write down what time you went to sleep the night before in terms of what time you got in bed. You don't need to be able to calculate exactly what time you fell asleep and whether or not you had deep sleep and what time, exactly how many hours you slept and all that. I think this is where some of the ladies get lost in the app because it defaults to making you put in times for your sleep. And that is not the best way to really tune in and observe, right? So when you're tuning into these things, pen to paper, time you went to bed, like I got in bed at 10 p.m. or I got in bed at midnight or I didn't get in bed until 2 a.m., right? You write down what time you got in bed. Whether or not you remember tossing and turning or not getting to sleep for a while, you don't need to have exact times, but what did you observe from the night before? It took me a long time to get to sleep. Or, wow, I remember I just knocked right out. I don't even remember. I got in bed and I was gone, right? Write down notes. And then the next morning, what time I woke up? Do I feel rested? Did I wake up in the middle of the night? If I did, how long did it take me to get back to sleep? I don't mean trying to calculate the exact amount of time. I mean, did it feel like it took a while? Or did you lay there for a little bit, take a few deep breaths and go back to sleep? What did you do when you wake up? Did you wake up to go to the bathroom? Did you drink water? Did you eat something? Did you get up and do something? Actual notes about what the heck is going on, right? Start doing that nightly. There's an idea for your sleep, right? Water intake. If you're a person who knows you're terrible about drinking water, you could keep a water journal. And it could be, what we track in the academy is just estimating your total water intake, tracking your water intake by ounces, and then reporting on about how much of that you had that week per day. But I would be more interested, if you're doing your own journaling, on thirst, assessing your thirst. You could say, I drank less water today. I didn't feel very thirsty. I feel fine, or I had headaches, or this is where we get into the what What's associated with this? Not just arbitrarily writing down how many ounces of water and having an arbitrary water goal that we're trying to hit, but did you notice thirst? How often did you notice thirst? How extreme was it? Was your pee clear, or is it bright yellow, or is it dark? You can look at the color of your pee, the color of your urine to some extent can be impacted by other things like vitamins and minerals and stuff like that. But these are all kind of general things that can help us assess our hydration level. So you can make note of your water intake, you can make note of your electrolyte intake, but more importantly, what are the symptoms that you're feeling? Did you feel dehydrated? Did you wake up with cotton mouth? Did you wake up parched in the morning? Did you feel that way before or after your workout? So noting your level of thirst throughout the day, the things that you're noticing from your physiological sensations, okay? So thirst or water intake, or how you want to track that, that's another idea. Number 3, and this is a huge one when it comes to learning to eat intuitively, which I did a masterclass on intuitive eating, so you can check that out. But really big is rating your hunger. This is a huge one when it comes to, am I physically stomach hungry or am I head hungry? Am I just emotionally craving something? Am I having a craving, or am I wanting to overeat because it tasted good and I want more of it, or because of something else I need that I'm ignoring, like I'm tired, or I'm stressed, or I'm bored, or I'm lonely? Separating out emotional eating from physical hunger, a huge piece of that process is learning to identify your level of hunger. So, giving it a rating. This is a process used in intuitive eating. Before your next meal, how hungry are you? Are you ravenous? Could you bite off your arm? Are you not really interested in food, but you're kind of forcing it because you're trying to hit your protein goal? Understanding and just checking in with yourself. You could literally have a journal that is just about assessing your hunger and fullness. And this is something I used to do with clients. I used to have a hunger and a satiety rating. And I simplified it, so now we only track hunger. But you could track both your hunger and your satiety. How full do I feel at the end of the meal? Am I eating until I'm stuffed, or am I eating until I'm satisfied? This is a really, really powerful one for changing your eating habits and understanding what your body wants versus what your emotions and your mind want. So hunger is an absolutely powerful one to track. Hunger and satiety both. Energy levels. Tracking your energy cycles. When I wake up in the morning, this kind of relates to the sleep one. How tired or energetic do I feel in the morning? You can give yourself a scale of 1 to 10 is a really easy way of putting some numbers to it, or you can just describe it with notes. I was dragging this morning. I was more tired than usual. I had brain fog. Whatever descriptive words you can use to explain your energy level. Before coffee, after coffee, assessing how coffee is impacting you. It's a good way of knowing whether or not that caffeine is impacting you in any way, shape, or form. What is your energy level like mid-morning? You could give yourself little alerts on your phone. If you're trying to develop more awareness and observation of your body, and you're not in the habit of doing it, most of us are not, set an alarm and have, if I want to assess my energy. So I'm going to set an alarm for generally around my wake up time, 2 hours later, maybe 3 times in your day, 4 times in your day. How often do you want to track it? Set a little alarm, and then you can make little notes at each of those times. That's a great way of doing that. Or you can just do a day scan at the end of the day, kind of go back over your day and notice, when did my energy take a slump? Did I feel energetic all day long? Did I have some slumps? Did it come back up? When did I eat in relation to those energy, that level of energy? Did I get tired after my meal? That may be a signal that your meal was too large, for example, and your body is now using a lot of energy to digest that size of a meal. That could give you a tip off that maybe I should try smaller meals more frequently throughout the day, right? So tracking your energy. Let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 5 is mood. This is a big one, especially for ladies going through perimenopause, literally ladies at any stage of life, because when you're cycling, when you're in premenopause and you're still cycling, your mood's going to change based on hormonal times of the month. During perimenopause, my goodness, it's really difficult to track these things or to anticipate them because our cycles are all over the place. So a really good time to track your mood, perimenopause and postmenopause. How am I feeling mentally? What is my mood like? Am I anxious? Am I noticing fear? Am I angry? Am I happy? Am I, so mood, but also this would be great to identify the full range of emotions you could be feeling and explore the language. I've talked about many times before, naming it to claiming it, to claim it, naming it to claiming it, name it to claim it. Get in touch with your emotions. What am I feeling? When your body, and this is why it's in the biofeedback section, mood is a function of physiology as well. When your body feels a certain way and you're kind of off and you can't really pinpoint what that is, explore it. When I say I'm feeling off, what does that mean? Wow, my mood has taken a dip. I'm feeling a little sad. I'm feeling a little, explore your language. Try to get very specific about what you're noticing with your mood. So you could do simply a mood journal. And an interesting thing we use in nutritional therapy, we have something called a food and mood journal. The food and mood journal, which, by the way, if you're in the academy, the template, or you're a client, the template for the food and mood journal based on nutritional therapy is inside your knowledge vaults, inside the app. So you can download that food and mood journal and you can try using that for a week. That is more comprehensive. That's going to have you write down your sleep. It does ask for sleep time and wake time. It asks for your meals and the timing of your meals. So what time did you eat that meal and how long did it take you to complete that meal? It asks what you ate. You put your beverages, you put any supplements you were taking, and then you put down your energy and mood, and you put down your physiological symptoms or responses. It's essentially kind of a symptom journal. It's something we use with nutritional therapy, so we can try to identify if there are patterns or things that are related to your eating, your nutrition, your quantity of food, your types of food sensitivities, all kinds of things like that. It's really powerful practice. But it's a lot more comprehensive, and so it's also time consuming. It's something we would only ask a client to do for maybe 3 to 5 days, and we don't do it all the time. But that is a great idea for something that you could use. And then that you might be able to find some connections between the foods you're eating and your mood, right? Or your energy, like we were talking about before. Oh, interesting. Every time I have one meal a day, I'm exhausted afterwards, right? So next one, Lisa asks a question about libido. So libido is number 6. So she says, libido, not just sex drive. Can you elaborate, please? So sex drive and libido are basically the same thing. What we're talking about with libido is desire for intimacy. Sexual intimacy of any kind. It doesn't have to be the act of vaginal sex, right? But it's your interest. It's your interest in, your desire for. So you could call it sex drive. Absolutely. It's not about your frequency of having sex. It's not about the availability of a sexual partner. I think this a lot of the time gets confused with ladies when they are widowed or single. They're like, well, I don't have anybody in my life, so forget about libido. I'm not going to report on that. We all have a libido, whether we have a partner or not, whether we are actively having sex or not, whether we have a sex life or no sex life. We all have a libido. And ultimately what it's talking about is, do I have a desire for sex, for intimacy, for sexual activity? It's literally, what is your desire for it? Now, this doesn't mean that you have to be fiending for it for you to have a good libido, right? This is where identify for yourself, for your own scale of what would be a high libido to me. What would I identify as a high libido? What would I identify as no libido? And then what might be some checkpoints along the way where I could say, all right, if I was going to assess it out of a 1 out of 5 or a 1 out of 10, then you could put some numbers to it. But the same thing, you can use notes to just make note of whether or not you had any interest in sexual intimacy that day. If you do have a partner and your partner tries to initiate sex and you reject them, why? Write that down. My partner tried to touch me and I didn't let him, or tried to initiate sex and I said no. Why? How was I feeling? Give yourself as much description about your interest in sexual connection as possible, sexual activity as possible, right? If I had to describe my libido, how would I describe it? Dana asks, does the mental desire count as physical desire? What do you mean by that? Give me a little more explanation. Before I move on to digestion. I had to look it up on Merriam-Webster's dictionary now because I'm curious. So the simple definition based on Merriam-Webster says sexual drive. So yes, sex drive is libido. But this was interesting. Instinctual psychic energy that in psychoanalytic theory is derived from primitive biological urges as for sexual pleasure for self-preservation, and that is expressed in conscious activity. That is very interesting. And this says, did you know the Latin word libido, meaning desire, lust, was borrowed by Sigmund Freud as the name for a concept in his own theories. At first, he defined libido to mean the instinctual energy associated with the sex drive. Later, he broadened the word's meaning and began using it to mean the mental energy behind purposeful human activity of any kind. In other words, the libido, for which Freud also used the term eros, a Greek word meaning sexual love, came to be regarded as the life instinct, which included sex along with all other impulses we rely on to keep us alive. But for those of us who aren't psychologists, use the word simply as a synonym for sex drive. That is super interesting. So let's see. Dana says, I think about it often and desire is there, but the body doesn't respond like it used to. Okay, yes, perimenopause has messed with my physical responses. Okay, this is a really good, I'm glad you asked this question. Yeah, when we're talking about libido, we are simply talking about the desire. So we are talking about the mental side of it. The body's response or the body's, let's say, ability to engage absolutely does change with the changes in hormones that we experience with perimenopause and postmenopause. When we lose estrogen, and y'all, I'm so excited. I'm finishing my menopause specialist certification. I have one more chapter I'm finishing this week, and then I'll have that certification complete. And I am going to do a whole, probably it'll take like a series of masterclasses to talk about it, because this was an 18 chapter module certification. Everything from the physiology of menopause to the mental side to the symptomology to what I really was taking this for, and it's how to implement it in my nutrition and training coaching business and practices with clients. But there's such a gamut that they covered. So I will be doing, and I know it's been a topic of interest for y'all, to really dive into the menopause stuff. But yes, let me make it clear that libido and your physiological response to sexual desire is different. And absolutely, as that estrogen drops, it literally changes the lubrication of our organs. And so a lot of women experience things like vaginal dryness. They have pain with intercourse, and more, and on and on and on. Pelvic pain. There's so many physiological symptoms that we experience that can absolutely impact your sex life, your sexual activity, your frequency of sex, and things of that nature. That's not what I'm talking about when I say libido. So when we are tuning into our biofeedback, what I want you to think about is, do I have a desire for sex? Is there a mental desire for sex? And then the physiology, you can also absolutely track those things. As a matter of fact, I think when I do the menopause series, I'll probably do some, not probably, I will be doing some resources to go along with it, like downloadable worksheet kind of pages that you can use. So this would be another great biofeedback marker to track with a journal. Journaling your menopause symptoms. And you can do that in multiple different areas. You can talk about your mental menopause symptoms, with the mood section. You can talk about your physiological symptoms. So exactly those kinds of things of pelvic pain or hip pain or body aches or brain fog or vaginal dryness or any of these other kinds of symptoms, you can track that as biofeedback. And I would highly encourage that, because this transition is a tricky one. And it is definitely difficult to understand what the heck our bodies are saying to us when we cannot count on what day we might be on in our cycle, what's going on with our hormones. It's a lot to try to sort through. Yes, Nilly, this is a powerful statement. I thought for a long time that because climaxing came easy, that my libido was fine. But once I got my hormones balanced, I realized that the desire is something totally different. It really is, ladies. It really is. We can take certain HRT that can help. Let me back up here. And Tina mentions this is why HRT was a game changer for me. HRT means hormone replacement therapy. You may have heard of BHRT, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. In some circles, it's being called menopause hormone therapy, MHT. There are different types, and there's lots of different types and methods for taking HRT. You could be taking estrogen, for example, and or progesterone, and it could improve your physiological symptoms so sex is not painful for you anymore, or that you are able to climax and things of that nature. But maybe you're not taking testosterone, you're not being recommended testosterone, and your libido, your desire for sex is still not there, because testosterone generally is the hormone that is more associated with libido. And ladies, I hate to say it, but there is no FDA approved testosterone replacement therapy for women. And so it is more difficult to get testosterone prescribed, especially if you're going the more traditional routes. All that to say, I'm not going to do a masterclass on HRT because I am absolutely not an expert on it. But what I will say is I have encouraged clients and members to look into it, to do their own due diligence, to do their research, and to talk with their providers about it and become educated about it. And it has been a thing that many ladies have felt maybe ashamed or like they shouldn't be doing it. And once they opened up to it and they got that education and they worked with the right provider, it made a huge difference for them. So I will absolutely say I'm an advocate for it. I have not gone down that road myself yet, but I am this close to doing it. This is the year I am taking the steps to find the right provider and start playing in that pond. So it is not something I will ever discourage any women from looking into. And I love to, advocate for it, but what I am not is an expert in that field. So what I won't do is pretend that I know the ins and outs about specifics when it relates to HRT. But I will be your cheerleader in saying, I think every woman deserves to have that conversation with her provider about it, and deserves to get educated about it. And unfortunately, like most things, and especially in our low carb world, the allopathic traditional medicine system doesn't always give us all of those options. So luckily these days there's something called the menopause out there, and there is a whole lot of female practitioners that are out there talking more about it openly, and offering lots of options. I get a little frustrated with it, FYI, because there's a lot of bashing in different camps, between those who prescribe certain types and those who recommend against certain types. So unfortunately, it can be as confusing as diet advice and fitness advice and all the other things. But I will just say, take your time, do your research. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to feel comfortable with what you're putting in your body. So as always, I'm going to always say, you be the CEO and you drive it. Don't just let a provider tell you, here's what I'm giving you, here's what you need, end of story. Ask questions, get testing, get whatever is going to make you feel more comfortable about going that route. All right, I totally did not mean to make this all about HRT, but it's such a hot topic for us, all the ladies in my community, because we're all in that stage of life right now. All right, let's see. Just looking at all of the comments here. Lots of chat about HRT. Okay, yeah, lots and lots of chat. We could totally do a whole thing on HRT. I will say there have been a couple of videos, and of course, I just moved this one off of my YouTube, and I'm gonna find it again. But there was a doctor on Dr. Sivas's channel. If you're familiar with Dr. Sivas, the carb addiction doc, he had a what did she call herself? The was it the holistic? No. The conscious gynecologist. That's what she goes by. So if you look up the conscious gynecologist, you'll find her. I've forgotten her name. I mentioned it on another masterclass, I think. But I really like how well she explained the whole gamut of options that are out there and what you'll find and the coverage of insurance versus not and all of that. So that's a really great interview if you want to go find that one on Dr. Sivas's channel. It was pretty recent. So anyways, one more biofeedback marker that we track in the Academy. And this is a huge one when it comes to diet and lifestyle and weight loss and body composition changes and everything we talk about here on this channel. Digestion. Oh my goodness. The biggest thing, I get these questions, should I be carnivore? Will it help me reach my goals faster? This, that, and the other. At the end of the day, when it comes to being within a low carb lifestyle of any kind, whether you're low carb, keto, carnivore, carb cycling, whatever you're choosing to do, food selection matters, and food meal timing and quantity, size of meals, all of these things will make a difference, and we are all unique individuals. So there is no one right template we should all be following. So digestion, if you do nothing else, just tracking your digestion, your symptoms, the way your body feels before and after food is going to be so powerful for you. So if you don't do any other type of tracking, I highly encourage tracking your digestion. What do I mean? Am I having any kind of digestive symptoms such as bloating, gas, constipation, indigestion, heartburn, diarrhea, frequency? Tracking your bowel habits just alone is a powerful thing. There is something called the Bristol stool chart or scale. You can look it up on Google, Bristol stool chart. It will show literally like illustrations, graphics that show what your poop would look like and then what is normal, what is considered low fiber or constipation and yada, yada. So you can literally track that. And actually, if you use Chronometer to track your nutrition, the Chronometer app, they actually have a Bristol stool chart you can use as one of the, what do they call that? Do they call it a metric? They might call it a metric. Biometrics. Yeah, if you go to in your Chronometer and you go to add biometric, they have the Bristol stool. You can track your stool, and it actually has the Bristol stool references on there. So that's something you can track, is what's happening with your poop. It's very, very telling. So yeah, and a lot of other things can be digestive symptoms that we don't think of as digestive symptoms. Like I talked about earlier, you get low energy, you get brain fog after a meal, or you're having sugar cravings. Starting to assess when these things are happening in your day can help you make connections. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what tracking biofeedback is for is to help you make connections. Oh, every time I eat that, I get heartburn. Interesting, right? Every time I eat that, I get an insatiable craving for sugar. Or when I time my meals differently, this happens with my biofeedback. So you can create your own biofeedback journal with whatever biofeedback markers are important to you. It could be any of the 7 or none of them. If you're dealing with a particular autoimmune condition, for example, and you have flare-ups, What do those flare-ups consist of? What are the symptoms that you experience when you get flare-ups? Inflammation in your body, pain, achy joints, maybe a very specific pain or ache that you experience on a recurring basis. You could track just those symptoms and try to start making connections in terms of when this is happening in my life and what else is happening around it and what could be contributing to that. 9 times out of 10, we're going to be able to answer our own questions about things much better than a coach or anybody else will, because guess what's going to happen? If you come to me as your coach and you say, hey, I'm having this pain, can you tell me what I should do about it? I'm going to ask a boatload more questions. And if you haven't already been tuning in to your biofeedback, those questions are going to be tricky to answer. It's just like going to your doctor and saying, hey, doc, I have this thing going on, fix me. And then they ask you a bunch of questions to get more information, and you say, I don't know, to everything. That doctor is going to have a much harder time diagnosing and treating your situation if you're like, well, I don't know. Right? All right, Celeste has a question. Awesome. I have a question about digestion. My last labs, they tested serum protein, and mine is low. Obviously, I eat a ton of protein, so I guess there is an absorption issue. No symptoms. Any suggestions? I'm forgetting what that marker actually even means in blood work. And let's see. Let's just Google it real quick. Total protein test measures the amount of protein in your blood. This test can help diagnose a number of health conditions, including liver and kidney disease, malnutrition, and infections. What can cause low protein levels? You said yours is low. Serum protein. So we're talking about protein in your blood. It says that it can be caused by a number of conditions, including autoimmune disease, celiac, Crohn's, infection or inflammation, increased metabolism, kidney disease, liver disease, malnutrition, and pregnancy. Interesting that they list what causes high protein levels: dehydration, chronic inflammation, viral infections, blood cancers, and severe liver or kidney disease. So, I'm not an expert on blood work. Don't pretend to be, but I can't say whether or not that has anything to do with your digestion and assimilation of amino acids. So it's interesting. She says, the doctor tried to tell me I wasn't eating enough of it. I was like, no, So that's frustrating to me, because your doctor is the one that should be making the connections to say, when it comes to blood work, well, if this marker is low and these other markers are doing X, Y, Z, this is what we can infer from that. In my experience and with my naturopathic doctor and the way he read my blood work, it was never about how much protein I'm eating. It was influenced by other things. So, but I can't speak to that because I'm definitely not an expert when it comes to blood work. But I would imagine that we shouldn't have a whole lot of protein floating around in our blood all the time. But like I said, I do not like to speculate when it comes to things I'm not well versed about. But I would maybe go back to your doctor and say, hey, based on my other blood work, would this signify or indicate anything I should be aware of? Yeah, and this, your next comment, this gets into more of the biofeedback piece, right? Because blood work is blood work. It's telling us, and this is the other thing with blood work, is that it's one point in time. So maybe you want to retest that. I know when my liver enzymes were low, we retested, or they were high. we retested those and boom, they were in range the next time. So it could be some weird thing that was happening right at that moment. And if you retest them and they're fine, then maybe there's nothing to worry about. That's the thing with blood work. It's one point in time. It's certainly not the same thing as biofeedback. So I would say your biofeedback would tell you more than the blood test would. It looks like she's testing again Thursday. Awesome. She says, so weird because no symptoms and I have perfect poop daily. Liver and kidney labs are fine. Just thought I would ask. Yeah. Usually it's the liver and kidney or the liver enzymes when they're elevated. That tends to be the case a lot of the time with high protein diets. Mine have been high at times and it's never been a concern for my doctor. But ooh, okay. This is a great comment from Kim. I enjoy drinking a gallon of water daily and it feels like it's beneficial for me. However, one of the ladies in my art class is a doctor and cautioned me on drinking too much water. Thoughts? All right, this is where bioindividuality comes into play big time. Is there such thing as drinking too much water? Absolutely, especially if you're drinking it without any electrolytes. Because water can flush out the electrolytes, the minerals in your body. That coupled with a low-carb diet, keto diet, also flushes water out of your body. So drinking a lot of water without electrolytes on a low-carb diet can absolutely flush out important nutrients. And yes, you can overhydrate. That's a thing. But this is where we have to look at your biofeedback. If you're feeling great, you're not experiencing any negative symptoms, no headaches, no symptoms of being over or underhydrated, and you're not forcing it, I would highly encourage not forcing. I'm a big fan of, and actually I did a whole hydration masterclass where I talked about this. A lot of the time, I'll have clients say, hey, how much water should I be drinking? I always start with, how much water are you drinking now? I've had clients come to me drinking 0 water a day, only drinking coffee all day. We started with reducing the coffee, increasing the water, the pure water. But getting to know, this is what I always say, get to know how much you consume consistently on a regular basis, and then notice if anything changes for you. I knew eventually I would get warm, y'all. It's not a hot flash though, yay. Those seem to have gone away for now. But yeah, assess your biofeedback and notice if you have any weird new symptoms, or if you were to cut back to 80 ounces, for example, or 100 ounces a day, and you feel worse or you feel better, those are the kinds of things you can play with. Also looking at how much electrolytes you're taking with that water. I would take a look at that. But yeah, there are a ton of bodybuilders out there drinking a gallon a day or more, which I couldn't imagine. I can barely get down 100 ounces lately. But it changes with a lot of things. It changes with your activity level, how much you sweat, how much, like I said, sodium, minerals, other things that you're getting, your food intake, how much or how little food you're consuming, your age, your nutritional status, your health status, your activity level is a big one. So, it's impossible to say how much water is the right amount of water for any given person. A general rule of thumb is half your body weight in ounces, which I'm pretty sure I know for you, Kim, that is not a gallon. But if you're feeling good on it, if you're not having any negative symptoms and you're not seeing any downsides to it, I wouldn't worry about it. You're going to get symptoms if you are overhydrated. Actually, that would be an interesting thing to Google. I don't remember now if we studied the symptoms in nutritional therapy. We studied the symptoms of underhydration. Here's a few real quick, thanks to our friends at Google. Blurred vision, diarrhea, fatigue, headaches, high fever, increased saliva in the mouth, mental changes including confusion, restlessness, irritability, or lethargy, and muscle tremors or cramps can all be signs of too much hydration. Interesting. That makes sense. The muscle cramps definitely, headache and muscle cramps make a lot of sense because that has to do with flushing out those minerals, like your magnesium and your potassium, for example, and sodium. Same with fatigue. These are a lot of the similar symptoms we see with low electrolyte consumption on a ketogenic diet, right? We talk about keto flu. It's usually the electrolytes getting flushed out that causes those symptoms. Also, the other thing to consider is that usually that's with drinking a lot of water in a short period of time, because our bodies like to maintain homeostasis, balance. So our bodies are always trying to find balance, and that's why our fluid levels fluctuate so much. So these questions that were being asked earlier about biofeedback, like scale changes, it all has to do with fluid balance. Our scales are not going to be exactly the same every day for that reason. Our body is constantly trying to maintain homeostasis, so it's changing things to keep our balance. So when it comes to hydration levels, it is shifting things to keep our blood levels of electrolytes, for example, the same. So it's one of those things you're not going to see, for instance, on blood work, is most of the time you're not going to see low potassium, low sodium, high sodium from blood work, because our bodies are really good at keeping those levels very tightly controlled. So if you're chugging a gallon in an hour, for example, you're going to screw with your body, your body's balance, and that's going to be dangerous. But we're talking about all day long, separated into small amounts, and you're not like guzzling it at any given time. It's unlikely to cause, much of an issue. She says, yeah, not feeling any of that. So that feels good. Yay. Yeah, your body probably is happy with it. All good. All right, let's see. Any other questions about any of this biofeedback or any other markers? Let me just make this note for Andrea and Debbie if they're still watching. Because I also got this question in the academy today as well, or yesterday. And it's about the fluctuations in body fat percentage and muscle mass on your in-body scale or on your bioelectrical impedance scale. The body fat percentage and the muscle mass will shift day to day for the same reason that your weight shifts day to day, and that is fluid balance. I have said this until I'm blue in the face, and I'll say it again until I'm blue in the face. Bioelectrical impedance scales, any digital scale that you buy, that you step on, and it has electrodes, or you hold the things or whatever, it is not measuring your body tissues. It does not know exactly how much muscle and exactly how much body fat you have at any given time. It is sending electrical currents through your body to estimate based on the impedance, because the impedance going through muscle is more difficult than going through fat. So that's how it's trying to assess or guess. It's making a guess at what your body fat is and your lean mass. So that's why it changes on a regular basis, because it's just guessing. And there's many, many variables that impact that, as Debbie was asking about. How do I differentiate between body fat percentage going up on in-body scale due to working out or what I ate the previous day. You don't. You can't. You can't really differentiate exactly what's causing that change. It can be 1 ounce more water or less. It could be what time you stopped drinking water the night before. It can be what time you had your last meal because you still have stomach contents. It can be inflammation from your training. It could be, and on and on and on and on and on. These scales are guessing. This is why I always say we never put too much stock in any one measure on any one day. This is why I encourage weighing daily so we can take weekly averages and then compare those averages week to week. The daily data means absolutely nothing. It's a guess for where you are at this point in time with a myriad of factors playing into it. Never try to overanalyze what's happening day to day on your scale. You will never be able to control it. You will never be able to make it always be the same or to make the lean body mass go up or down or any of that. The biggest things that I see impacting it in the biggest way are usually that meal timing and size of that last meal because you're still digesting, how long you waited, before between that last meal and when you got on the scale, when you worked out and how hard you worked out and how much recovery, your body needs. So you could have some inflammation, and hydration level, huge, and foods. So carbs, for instance, the biggest thing is the carbs. When you are carnivore, you'll have the least fluctuation day to day, and that is because your carbs are so tightly controlled. But when you're having 30 grams of carbs one day and 50 the next and 20 the next and 70 the next and up and down, that carbohydrates, carbs hydrate your cells. They bring water in. Carbs are the biggest impact on the scale day to day. And it doesn't just change the weight, it will also change the body composition because your body is going to see that water in the muscle cells and it's going to see it as muscle. So a lot of the time, eating more carbs makes it look like you have more lean mass. This is another reason why I'm getting off on a lot of different things, but I think this little nugget could be helpful for someone. And I'll talk about it again in a future masterclass. But it's one of the reasons why we get confused, not we don't, but a lot of people in the fitness industry think you need muscle, you need carbs to build muscle, because if you just look at your bioelectrical impedance scale and you eat a bunch of carbs, the next day the weight is going to be up, but guess what else? Your muscle mass will probably also be up because you're going to have carbs pulling water into your muscle cells. And it's going to make it look like you have more muscle, but it's not tissue. It is not tissue, it's water. And this is why I say, don't stress out about the weight on the scale and don't stress out about what carbs do to you. They're supposed to do that. They're supposed to bring water into the cells. So water weight is nothing to be afraid of. And the reason we go low carb is not so that we'll never have any water weight. We have a lot of water weight. Water is like 60% of our bodies, y'all. So we don't need to be fearing these things, but we do. Understanding these things is very helpful for understanding what's happening when we see these things on the scale and trying to identify what's going on. So I had to just go back and make sure I made mention of that. I hope that was helpful. Just know that these scales don't really know. They're guessing. They're giving you an estimate. So I always say, let's not spend our energy on trying to make the scale do anything. Just take the data down and move on and track the averages and look over time. All right, well, that was almost an hour and a half tonight. Woo! Only because, my favorite topic, menopause, came up. So always have to do a little diatribe when it comes to that. Lots of fun, exciting new topics coming up this year. So I can't wait to dive into them all. And if y'all have any requests for topics, drop them in the comments or holler at me in the Facebook group or inside the academy and just let me know. I want a masterclass on XYZ. And if I already have one, I'll send it to you. And if I don't, we'll add it to the list. And we'll do it next time. All right, ladies, have a wonderful rest of your week. Go crush it this week. Monday mood. Let's normalize Monday mood being a I'm going to crush it mood, not Monday mood being like, oh, I'm so sad it's Monday. Womp womp. We want to go into our week powerful. Have a beautiful week. And for those of you in Grace and Grind, I will see you in the group. Tomorrow morning, I will announce our week 2 prize winner. See y'all later. Love y'all.